Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions, the Straight Up Club. It seems so impossible in the way of the ego that we're infinite, powerful beings. We're so used to playing little. Consciousness is to generate a world and act like we're little, teeny, tiny little things, rather than vast, infinite. Think of all the out picturing, how you see, like they'll do like a person, a little body on the world, and then it's almost like a camera that pulls back, infinitely pulling back. And it pulls back to the moon, and that little person gets smaller and smaller, and then the world gets smaller and smaller, and then it pulls back, pulls back, pulls back. And we have to see that these are all concepts. It seems so improbable. We're so used to the world being that way. But they're all pictures that are stitched together by consciousness. They're all stitched together. They don't all appear at once, notice. Their thoughts arise, and then it seems like, oh, there's a little person in a little world. And it's this outpicturing that the ego depends on. So we feel small and weak and subject to the world rather than an infinite being of light. To seem like the world is cast upon us rather than it's trying to cast it out from us, all while being within. So we can ask the light about that just to see what's true. It's so robust, this query on infinite light. Why not let the light answer? The light's the only thing that's around all the time. Is the light here always? Can we find a time when the light's not here? I guess we're not getting on a plane to fly too far these days. But even so, we can fly on a plane in our imagination. Go somewhere else. Is the light still here? So we can ask Jesus in the light of divine being and honesty of God, the light that shines within. Is there a world? Do I, as love, know what a world is, or is that a concept? Does infinite love know what a world is? So Jesus, is the world made up to try and obscure supreme happiness? For me to obscure supreme happiness from myself? You can hear his answer, yes. To block the face of Christ, the light in everything I see. Okay, Jesus, where we're going to start with that light. And see that no matter how many times we'd asked to be something other than light, how many times the prayer would arise, I want to be other than light. We can't be anything other than light. We can't, there's no other. You can ask the light. Is there an other somewhere? In truth. When we really look hard, is there an other inside of infinite light of being? This feels so really good to be honest about this one. Our happiness depends on it, actually. Because we can see immediately that there's something here. It's not an object. The light has no beginning nor ending. Jesus, am I addicted to something other than light, to play as though there's something here other than infinite? Okay, so will you show me? So he's keeping it very simple for us right now. Light, and everything else is an idea. You can ask him, Jesus, is everything other than light an idea? It's a concept that I made. Is the world a big fat concept? I hear the answer. Is it an idea that I'm separate from you? Can I ever really be separate from the light, Jesus? Do I relish being separate from the light? Just relish it and want it more than God. That's all we're looking at, how much we want everything in this book more than we want God. All the ideas, every idea that he puts in here to show us all the beliefs. You can ask him, Jesus, all I have to see is that how much I want each one of these beliefs that you give, that you've listed here. Separation can't be maintained when we see through all the ideas here, but we can see how complicated it is, because God only has one sentence, you are light. And then the ego has all of this. Jesus, let me tell you a little story in a big fat book of why I'm not it, why I'm not already saved, why salvation can't be my priority. Salvation of God. Like salvation of God, I like calling it that because the ego has its version. So there's honesty of God, there's salvation of God. So we'll just use that on the first one. I'm saying, is that okay? He says, yes, salvation of God is my only function here. Salvation that is of the Father, that's already granted to his Holy Son. So Jesus, will you show me all the ways I'm using everything in this book to deny that salvation is my only function? How I desired a story of a person that has to go through all these things in here to see and admit finally that I'm light. That's why he says ultimately you have to throw the book away. Because God would have us have the only story, the greatest story ever told. I am light. And then put a period after that and then just not add anything extra to that. I am that I am. Before light, the idea, because light's even an idea. That's deep. What has no name. It's a helpful one because it points to what's true until we can admit there is only the truth. For as long as we're sneaking out of God's higher court, the little kid going, it's kind of boring in here in this court of happiness. And you sneak out and go down the hall to the court of two, duality, where salvation can never be found, where we constantly like the play in that courtroom of being cast out of the kingdom. Let me just have, for good old time's sake, I'm going to have one more cast out. One more throw myself into the wolves of consciousness, the asteroid belt of consciousness, and just kind of take my little rocket ship and I'm going to fly between the rocks and the asteroid belt, trying to find a better rock that's going to work better. Even though there's no oxygen here, I'm just going to fly around in my little universe of rocks and boulders and death wishes and funerals in there and loss. But we can see immediately in the light of divine being is there, do a little check-in in there. Hello. Is there death in that light? Is there anything other than peace and light? Is there anything other than salvation in that light? Can we find a way not to be saved or resting as light beings? And then let's turn to the light and tell the light, this looks really good, but you know, I'm thinking I'm going to pass today on light. That's all we're doing all day long. The play of consciousness is made. Just kind of interesting, but I got this thing. I got a thing I gotta do. But Jesus, I gotta take care of myself. It's kind of the I gotta syndrome. I gotta be dead today, Jesus. It's defending death. So we go back to salvation of God. I'm going to ask him, do a check-in. Jesus, do I relish denying that salvation is my only function? God's salvation. Do I relish denying myself supreme happiness? I want to look at any energy around that. You show me anywhere I'm denying myself that I am supreme happiness itself. When you first start looking at that, you might feel like you want to throw up, because that's how consciousness plays. It's going to make what's holiest of holy kind of nauseating. I remember that. Like every time I'd start really deep looking, I felt like I wanted to gag. Jesus, is this part of the play? Yes. That we actually look at God and want to gag. To look upon the face of Christ and feel nauseated. That's how consciousness plays. I'm asking Jesus, yeah. So Jesus, will you show me all the things, I'm willing to see all the things I'm using to deny that salvation of God is my only function. I'm called in the heart, like I'm called to God. Now what? Jesus is calling me to these circles. He's called me to chapter 20. Is there a higher function in salvation to see through what's in this book? Is anything more important? Like, let's just ask him, because he told me he'll take care of the minutia. Jesus, do I have any doubt that you'll take care of the minutia? If my only function to see where I'm denying salvation all these ways and just taking a deep look with you, and will you take care of everything else? And see if he says no, because I only hear yes to that. When he told Helen, that was so helpful, because we're so convinced part of the play is that the spirit would not be practical. We'll be airy-fairy sitting on a rock somewhere. No, this is deep inner work. No sitting on a rock. And when he told Helen, I have a better use of time. Jesus, am I willing to accept that your use of time is the most helpful? That's really the question for us. Like, because the whole play of consciousness is the doubt thought that Jesus has the best interest of how to use time to lead us out. So I guess that's really the question. We can go inside and see, Jesus, am I willing to see that Jesus truly has the best use of time? It can only be this way because the entire thought structure of the ego is to misuse time, to use time to prove that death is real. So he points, he's reminding me of that laser precision. You know, over time, as a parallel, it was time when surgery was just kind of yank it out. But over time, they developed tools that were like surgical, and the surgery would go in and just take out what needed to be removed quickly. But we want to go over the body and just hack it to pieces to try to find the thing, when he'd say, no, if you look with me, I'm going to show you it's right here. As a metaphor, actually. I'll show you where the underlying conditions, with your willingness, I can help reveal the underlying conditions. So that's the question. Jesus, am I willing to give it over to you for you to reveal to me the underlying conditions? For you to be in control of all the miracles. Will you help me? Sometimes we need that pre-miracle to the miracle. Because the play of consciousness doesn't want to see those underlying conditions. It wants to postulate what they are and tell a big fat story, and then it's this and this story and that story, and this is what happened to me when I was 2. This is what happened to me when I was 4. You can ask them, is that helpful? No. It's not to be judged. The only thing that matters is willingness to see it different. Am I willing to see that I'm wrong? That's it. It can look any way it wants to look, but without the W underneath it, the willing, it's still in the play of the death. It's in the death trap. You can have 100 billion expression sessions, won't matter. Express, keep expressing, I'm expressing, and it won't matter without the willingness to see it a different way. There's nowhere in this book he says you got to express anything. You just have to see what's true. There's not one place that I know of in this book that says you have to express anything. It's helpful if you're using it. Let spirit use it to see it another way. That's the only way it's helpful. You know, I got to tell them I'm not expressing how I feel. Who's involved in that? I need to express how I feel. No, let Jesus tell you what to say. That makes it simpler. I will tell you everything you need to say. Then you're expressing in wholeness rather than fragmentation. There's expression to keep. I'm going to express, I'm going to tell them everything I feel. There's so many concepts around authentic expression. The only authentic expression is what Jesus' words puts in your mouth. That's the only authentic expression. Everything else is like living in concepts. Am I willing to hear your words, Jesus, and speak them because they're what's most natural to me? It's okay if it's a no. It's fantastic if you hear the no. Because then we'll ask for help. We'll see how much no, I don't want to speak my own natural voice. I turn Jesus into the bad guy. But that's Jesus as the bad guy is only our reflection of that we believe we're a bad guy. So without hearing in these circles his voice telling us you're innocent and ceasing to believe that we're not. Speak the voice of truth. That's really the most glorious thing in Muji, with Muji. Whose voice is speaking? Is it the I want voice? The I want something. I want to prove that I'm okay. The I prover. That was the play here, boy, trying to prove everything. And the ego likes to prove things by saying, this is what I think. It's actually reliving it over. No, Jesus, all I need to say is what you tell me to say. I don't have to figure it out or wander around in consciousness or defend a position. You'll see when he tells you to say something, there's no defense in it. It doesn't defend. He doesn't defend. You are. You have nothing to defend. Speaking that serpent's tongue is to defend. It's a defense. See, when we're speaking every other voice except Jesus's voice, we're defending something. So it's good to practice. So we're through love, it's given by love to practice continually. That's why the joining is so valuable. It's not to heal someone, or it's only to listen and speak. Here's what he's saying. Listen and speak. Listen and speak, and then follow. And then we're practicing speaking our own true voice. And other stuff will come up too. It's okay to speak it. You know, Jesus doesn't make anything wrong. He's just the speed up. Here's a speed up. I will tell you everything to say, every way, every place to go, and what to do. So the question is, do we believe that Jesus has our best interest at heart? That's the question. Jesus, do I believe you have my best, that God has my best interest? Because if we don't, that means we're following the interest of the one who's once is dead. He's reminding me to remind everyone, stay out of the storytelling. Drop the stories like a hot potato. As soon as we start telling a story, we're in the play. Unless it's being used by the Spirit. Jesus made me so conscious. This is why before I tell a story, I always ask them, is this truly what's most helpful to share, to express this? See, it's expressing what's truly most helpful. And I think I've shared before where I was in India and Ramana was a student of Papaji, and he was talking about how only a Yanni can tell a story. And I just remember getting so mad and huffy, you know. A Yanni is a realized being, seemingly realized one who has dropped the egoic consciousness, egoic investment in a separation identity. I'll call it that. Jani. Yanni. And now I understand that because the ego uses stories to relive the past consistently, to try to prove something, to be better than, to want something. It's just to relive the experience. It relives experiences, like feeds on it. But yet the beauty of the Holy Spirit is he uses stories to unwind us from the story. It's the whole story of waking up, that he uses movies. Look how he's using movies, because he's reinterpreting the stories. He's using stories to reinterpret stories. Jesus, do I relish having a little storyline that I am hurt or suffering, or storyline of being in pain? Am I relishing any of those things? The relishing of a little story of a me, my little mehood through a story. It's just a little play, you know, it's innocent. But if we don't see the power of storytelling to deny light, wanting the story, that was very humbling when I saw it was a story of falling asleep as well as a story of the one who wakes. See that the light's not waking up or falling asleep. It's just here. It doesn't have a storyline. So there's a desired experience of a storyline to wake up from the dream. Now, how about that? Let's ask him, Jesus, is there a desire for a storyline of the one who wakes up from the dream? You can hear the yes. It's the only way it can be, because see, the light's not invested at all in a storyline. It just is. So waking up is just dropping the storyline, the little movie of some little person being apart from God, when we can't be apart from God because we are light. God can't grant something that's apart from him. He doesn't know what that is. We don't know what that is. It's just a concept in the dream that we do. So first, we can check in with Jesus and see how well we are accepting salvation. And then if, again, any little twitches appear, jump a join at the end of the session. Say, I am willing to jump a join. I am willing to jump a join. And then look at with my brother at this, because you have to see the gift this bestows upon your brother. The ego's going to treat, I'm like, got to get help. And it just plays this horrific thing around joining. I see that. But remember that this is given by Jesus. This is God's plan for salvation in joining. Join what's true, it's true with the brother. And know that if he's sending you to this brother will have words for comfort for you from him, if we're willing to listen. Now, if we make our brother, it's like, oh man, you put your little thing out on that joining group. It's like, oh man, anybody but that one. You'll see the consciousness play that way. It's going to play that way. Oh, God, I was so hoping it wouldn't be him. Oh, gee. It's going to play like that. Anything to avoid the joining, to go empty-handed to our God, which is go empty-handed to our brother. Not have a single idea about what our brother is, because the moment that little idea comes up, beep, that our brother is something, we just congealed into an object. We just congealed hell right there. Poof. See how it's a push away. Oh, anything but him. But look under that, oh, anything but him, and see the wanting of the experience of, oh, anything but him. And see how much that's relished. It's helpful. Because we start to see the trick and the contraction, the pushing away. Anything but him, that means we're pushing not our brother away, we're pushing the light out of awareness with the story of a him and anything but. And so he just, without even joining, he just already gave you a gift. The gift to look, to see where there's a desire for, anyone but him. Experience. That's very humbling to see that. My part is essential for God's plan for salvation. It's good to keep looking to see where we're convincing ourselves, I'm not that needed. I'm not necessary for God's plan. You are God's plan for salvation. You're the only plan he has. You're it. Ta-da. You are the plan because you are the light. But Jesus knows we like planning, so God's got a plan for us. It's just that in the play of consciousness, we want to see what the plan is. Okay, Jesus, I'm going to go along with this light thing, but I really, really got to see the plan. I got to read the playbook. Before I get in the game, it doesn't work that way. It works like this. It works, I'm in the game no matter what, because I'm going to accept that I'm holy.
Oh, yeah, 116.
Today's 116?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said it was 115. Okay.
Just now caught it.
We just now caught it. So we just did it twice. Who's up for it? I must not have gotten yesterday's. I got to do it over. I thought it looked familiar. Okay, so we get a foreplay today. You get 4 of these. Like he would say to me all the time, and he said to me again, whatever lesson you get it fully. 100%, no exceptions to it. I obviously needed that lesson again. Okay. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Let's just see, are we willing to accept that? So if the lesson replayed, was there one twitch about it? No. To have the tiniest little twitch to do yesterday's, like, to the ego go, oh, I already got that. That's just great, because then we just saw how it plays. Oh, there's something wrong. That's fantastic. What an opportunity. Okay, so God's will for me is perfect happiness. Am I willing to accept that his will for me is perfect happiness? Okay, if I had one twitch on the repeat of the lesson. One little teeny, Jesus, if I had one little twitch on that lesson, am I denying that God's will is for me for perfect happiness? They'll go, yeah. The only question of value, am I willing to fully get the lesson of this book? And that is, I am light. Am I willing to get it? That's what I'm here for. That's what we came for today. This is going to really mess everybody up on the internet when they go. But then you see there's no one out there. It's always for me. It's always for me. to love God's plan for salvation, and I'm it. You're it. You're God's plan for salvation. God's will is perfect happiness for me. Because you're happiness itself. So you're God's will, happiness. And then we put a period. You are happiness itself. You can't be anything other. Jesus, can I be anything other than happiness? And I can suffer, but from the belief there is another will apart from his. Jesus, do I like to pretend like there's another will other than God's? Do I like relish that? We just ask him so he can tell us when we're relishing. If you're not supreme happy, he's saying that. If you're not supremely happy, that means that you're relishing a will other than God's. You know what I love about this? So many things. So much gratitude. Because he will not let us compromise that we are supreme happiness. This isn't about enlightenment, something in a future. So we call it cease to deniement. He will not allow us to settle because we're settling. We need him because we settle for less than supreme happiness and pretend like it's not possible to be what we are, which is supreme happiness, supreme happiness, supreme happiness, supreme happiness. We can't settle for less than that anymore. That's what compromise is, to be anything other than just infinitely happy. Wow. Let's just ask him, Jesus, is there any place you can show me where I'm compromising supreme infinite happiness is given by the Father? He says your Father would not have it so. Jesus, am I willing to accept that the will of God is my will? That'll put you on your knees, really. Do I relish this split will feeling, a feeling split from you, Father? If there's any really relishing of that, will you help me with a miracle? Jesus says all the miracles are yours, always. They're always yours. I share my Father's will for me, his Son. I share God's will for happiness for me. Am I willing to, Jesus, to share God's will? And it's okay if you hear the no. If he tells you no, then we're in the honesty. Do you see? That's the gateway to heaven. It's straight in then, because then we're in honesty of God going, you're right again. I don't want God's will for happiness. I don't want happiness, one little ooch. Like we're so used to pleasure. Pleasure obscures happiness. It's just like pain. They're just vehicles in consciousness to obscure supreme infinite happiness. We can't even tell when we're in disquietude. That's how we played. We avoid seeing the level of angst and disquietude. Jesus said, yeah. Okay, Jesus, I'm willing to see that totally. He says, see your desire for this. Just see it. Just stand into it and admit it. Okay, I just relish in this anxiety. I'm relishing. And go with him till it burns out in infinite to see none of these desires can stand before the light of God. Not a single desire is more powerful than infinite light. You can ask him, Jesus, one desire I have to miscreate hell for myself, is that more powerful than infinite light of being? He says you don't have to make it real, but you do. Because you believe it's real, you have to release it out of the subconscious mind because you value it. It's like a precious little thing under there. And you have to see it's not valuable to you. He says you have to see this is not valuable to you. These are all little death stones that have been collected, little stones of death, and that you're fighting to keep. Jesus, am I fighting to keep God's will for happiness apart from me? Am I fighting it? I'm willing to see that I'm relishing fighting God's will for happiness. I relish fighting it. I'm willing to see it. And let that shine, let the light of truth shine on that I can never be, even if I want to pretend in hell world, I can't be apart from God's will for happiness. I share my Father's will for me, his Son. What he has given me is all I want. What he has given me is all there is. So let's just be clear with Jesus today. If nothing else comes of it, in the light of divine being and honesty of God is what God has given us all there is. His supreme happiness, all there is. And is everything else just an idea? On the hour, God's will for me is perfect happiness. Am I willing to want this more than I want every other idea I've ever had about who I am? Would I stand join with my brother in this truth and refuse to accept anything other than God's holy promise to me? On the half hour, I share God's will for happiness for me. Infinite. The infinite light of being. Just hold Jesus' hand and just stand in that light. Just hold his hand and stand as the light of everything. Let's just try that on for a day and see how that works, opposed to all these other ideas and miscreations and kerfuffling, and just stay one day in the light of divine being and just see how that works. Like Muji says, why not today be all that is? No extras, you know, just the plain old hamburger of God that has everything. Thank you, Jesus, for bringing us together in this deep, deep holiness. To celebrate the light is all there is. Just to contemplate the most holy of holies, what we are. Amen. So we're going to ask Lori if she'd come up. Let's do Holy of Holies. Would you do Holy of Holies for us? Oh, okay. She had other lyrics. Jesus, we just throw a wrench in the plan. It's so beautiful. I might go get my guitar and play with you. Hold on. Good morning, loveliness. This is the holiest of holies. God is light. God is light. God is light. In me there is no darkness
Ramana. Oh, Ramana. Oh, Muji. Oh, Jesus. Burn all the bridges. Oh, Ramana. Oh, Muji. Oh, Jesus. Follow me, beloved. Oh, Ramana. Oh, Muji. Oh, Jesus, the holiest of holies. God is light. God is light. God is light. In me there is no darkness. Oh, Ramana. Oh, Muji. Oh, Jesus, the holiest of holies. Thank you for singing.
Thank you for singing. Lori and Stephanie.
Thank you, love, for joining us. We love you.
Computer is fine.